Earthers, Nikki here, and today is such a good day. It is a blizzard out there, it's the weekend, I'm warm and toasty and here with my peppermint tea and my cats and my books and my Jordan, and I hope you're toasty and safe as well. And today I'm going to talk to you about The Vital Abyss by James S.A. Corey. And if you were ever wondering what happened to those scientists who work for Protogen at Toth Station, you're going to find out today. Without any spoils though, so gather around the blue light readers for this episode of iWizard. The Vital Abyss is a novella that takes place between the events of books 3 and 4 of the Expanse series. So that would be Abaddon's Gate and Sibylla Byrne. And I've been reading the Expanse in chronological order. So by the dates of the events, not by the dates of publication, with the exception of the prequels, because I just really wanted to hit the ground running here and see if I liked Leviathan Wakes before getting into all the short stories and the novellas, which I absolutely loved Leviathan Wakes. So if you haven't checked out my reviews of Leviathan Wakes and Caliban's War and Abaddon's Gate, please do so. And after I finish reading Leviathan Falls, I will get to the prequels later. And I just love that the writing in these books and novellas just keep getting better and better over time. So James S.A. Corey continues to hone their craft. And usually they write in the third person limited. And this is the first person POV we've gotten in any of the books or novellas so far. And they had a task in front of them for this one because our narrator is Paulo Cortazar. And maybe that name's ringing a bell for you right now, but I'm going to talk about this at length, but it's just such an interesting direction to go, and they pulled it off really well, I thought. And if you've seen the TV series, you might remember Cortazar from season 2, and he reappears in seasons 5 and 6 as well. And Cortazar was one of the Protogen researchers from Toth Station, and many of those researchers were also stationed on Phoebe. And if you remember, Phoebe is the outermost funky-shaped moon of Saturn that has this like really strange orbit, and some interesting research on the protomolecule began there. That's actually where the protomolecule was found, because remember in this series, Phoebe is not actually a moon. It's like this alien thing. So recall that all the way back in Leviathan Wakes, the scientists from Toth Station were responsible for the protomolecule experiment on Eros. I know. And so the Roci crew got together with Miller and the OPA, and they assaulted and took over Toth Station. And that's when Miller and Holden have their confrontation with Anthony Dresden. And Anthony Dresden is the head of the protomolecule research group for Protogen, or he was the head of the protomolecule research group for Protogen before that assault. And the members of the research team all underwent a process in which they had their empathy removed. And it was only the research team, not all members of the science group at Toth. So the science group also included security, maintenance, administrative workers. And so really it was a bold and creative choice by James S.A. Corey to give us Cortazar's perspective, because Cortazar was a member of the nanoinformatics research group. So he has had his empathy removed. So essentially, this story is told from the perspective of a sociopath. And we meet Cortazar about 4 years after the Arrows incident, and he has been an OPA prisoner the entire time. So dramatic irony here. We know about the existence of the Ring Gate, but Cortazar does not. And he is imprisoned at the start of this book with 35 other members of the science team, and about 10 of them are from research. So we have about 10 sociopaths there. And They are imprisoned in this big room about the size of a football field, and they have windows set above so that the OPA guards can look down upon them to keep watch. And the prisoners have to do everything in front of each other, in front of the guards. They have absolutely no privacy whatsoever. They have to wash in front of each other, go to the bathroom. They have sex in front of each other. Although they did construct like this little fort of crash couches, which they call the hotel. But it is a very animalistic way of being. For most of us, there was a sense that this shabby, empty room was the final destination for us. The former science team from Toth Station, some wept at the thought. The research group did not. Day by day, we were ground down. Our experiential worlds narrowed to who was having sex with whom, whether someone's comment about a fellow inmate was innocuous or provocative, and fighting, sometimes violently, over who among us slept in which of the crash couches. We were petty and cruel, despairing and restless, occasionally humane and even capable of moments of actual, if ephemeral, beauty. Perhaps all periods of prosperity and calm go unnoticed when they occur. Certainly, I didn't look on those days with any fondness until after the Martian came. All the things that the room had taken from me, my curiosity, my hope, my sense that a life outside of my nameless prison was possible, were distilled into his cool brown eyes. One of the occupational hazards of my career path is a kind of solipsism, but I truly felt at that moment that God had sent an angel to deliver me and whisper the secrets that had been hidden from me so long into my ear, which made the actions that followed so devastating. Moments of significance can make maintaining objectivity difficult. There is nothing so destructive and also so easy to overlook as a bad idea. I swore that I would never compromise my mind that way again, though, like all such resolutions, I have since broken it profoundly. The changes that we went through to become what we became didn't blind us to humanity. Our emotional lives didn't stop. If someone felt flattered, or excluded, or tired, we saw it just as anyone else might. The difference, and I think it was the only difference, came from not caring anymore. In this novella, we get to learn Cortazar's backstory and move forward with him during his imprisonment, and the significance of us joining him 4 years into his imprisonment, or the significant change that takes place, is that now the Mars Congressional Republic Navy, or the MCRN, has gotten involved, and they have sent a Martian to make arrangements with the OPA because they want one of the 3 nanoinformatics research group members to analyze the data stored on this device. Okay, so they want exchange analysis of the hand terminal, potentially for someone's freedom is the thought here. And Cortazar is an Earther. He was from Londrina in Brazil, and he grew up on BASIC. So we get to learn a little bit more what growing up on BASIC on Earth is like. And people on BASIC are supported by the United Nations or the UN government, and they don't work at all. They get the bare bones healthcare coverage, they get recycled clothing, they live in tiny or shared apartments, and all women need to go on contraceptive or be on contraceptive. And the only way they can go off of it is if they legally have enough money to do so. And Cortazar's mother worked really hard to earn enough money to have him. And then when he's a teenager, she ends up getting really sick. And after she passes away, then we learn how Cortazar came to study nanoinformatics and how he got hired by Dresden Protogen and how he got involved in the protomolecule research. And like any hard sci-fi, this novella is just crammed full of information. Just about every sentence is important, so you really have to pay attention. But it's short. It's only 77 pages long, and I enjoyed it so much. if you're into lots of action scenes, the story doesn't have many. There's only like 2 and they're super short. So this might not be for you, but I had so much fun diving into Cortazar's twisted yet logical mind. All right, well, let's talk about what I liked. And I liked so much about this novella, so I'll try to keep it kind of short. So while Cortazar is a prisoner, he ends up taking a lover named Alberto. And Alberto was from administration on Toth, so he was part of the science team, but he wasn't part of the research group, so he doesn't have that empathy modification. And I really liked this contrast between Alberto and Cortazar and the questions that it brings up. Can Cortazar love? Is this a one-sided relationship? Animals can't feel empathy, I don't think. But they can love, I think, maybe. But then again, whenever I'm sad, my cats come to cuddle with me so they can sense it. So maybe they can feel empathy. And Cortazar is very much aware of his condition, and he has learned to question his assumptions about what other people feel. And he tries to analyze situations through Alberto's eyes, or at least he leans on Alberto at times to ask him his advice and his interpretation of certain scenarios. And I also love the moral dialogue around research ethics here and the discourse around research in general. For example, when Cortazar is researching his mother's illness, he finds just how close to the cutting edge of human knowledge we really are. And after she passes away, he ends up attending the Tel Aviv Autonomous University, and students and faculty at that university don't come from money. So in their work, they always have to be on the cutting edge. And so Cortazar ends up majoring in this very new field called nanoinformatics. And because it's such a cutting edge degree, he finds it really hard to find a job in his specialty. And so he just feels just so dismayed after he graduates. And he thinks, oh, I'd exchanged Laundrina and life on basic for a degree I couldn't use and a rainbow of addictions. I was, if anything, worse off now than when I had spent my days watching my mother fade into death. And this is a bit melodramatic. But is it really? When you pour so much of yourself into the pursuit of knowledge and all that time and work, and then it doesn't get you anywhere further. It's very, very frustrating. But in the end, of course, he ends up working for Protogen. And also, I thought the ending of this novella was just perfect, especially the last sentence. And there was not much that I disliked in this novella, to be perfectly honest here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and nitpick at some of the science. And so this first thing I'm going to talk about, I just thought was a really cool thought experiment. And I understand that it's a thought experiment, and I'm not a computer programmer, but I just want to go through a few of the limitations of this thought experiment. All right, so let's start with a finite bar. And we're going to tick a notch in the bar, okay? So on one side of the notch, that segment is A. On the other side of the notch, that segment of the bar is B. And if you take the ratio between the two segments, so A divided by B, it's going to give you a value, okay? And if A is greater than B, that value is going to be greater than 1. If A is less than B, that number is going to be less than 1. And so here's the thing. The thought experiment talks about how, okay, so if you could, with absolute precision, okay, make that notch there, okay, and you can encode then all this information in that ratio. So for example, if the ratio between A and B was 0.12152225, so that's 1215225. That's 7 significant figures there. So that's a pretty precise ratio. Okay, then you could encode in it using alphanumerics, okay? So where 12 would represent the letter L, 15 could represent the letter O, 22 the letter V, and 5 the letter E. So technically you're encoding love. And if you could get absolute precision, then you could encode, like in the same fashion, the plays of Shakespeare, for example. But here's where I'm going to start to nitpick. All right, so you'll notice even as I typed out love, how the 5 needed an extra space to align with the E. Okay, so what's missing here is a 0, okay? Because the way that this code would be read is, well, I would think that the computer is interpreting, all right, so every 2 digits is a letter. Well, we have an odd number of digits here. So you need a 0 before the 5 to make this complete, okay? And you can't have a 2-digit combination greater than 26, right? Because you're limited by the letters in the alphabet. So without having this 2-digit rule, right, love could be interpreted perhaps as above, right? If it was 1, 2, 15, 22, 5. Okay. End of rant there. The last other piece it talks about is being limited by Planck's constant. That Planck's constant got in the way, which, if pushed a little further, I think is a pretty cool idea because, okay, so let's think about Planck's constant for a bit. So Planck's constant is the letter H in physics. And I think they're trying to reference statistical mechanics here, so that knot should have to be so small and so precise that you were getting into the realm of quantum mechanics. So I think they were really referencing the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, okay, saying that the position and the momentum of particles is limited by h bar over 2, where h bar, remember, is the reduced Planck constant, so that's h over 2 pi. And so what this is saying is that when you get to the quantum level, we cannot predict with any kind of certainty greater than h bar over 2, that certainty is less than h bar over 2, where a particle is going to be, where something so small is going to be. So when you get to that point of making those notches so precise, you're limited by quantum mechanics, which is kind of cool. And if you want to learn more about Heisenberg uncertainty principle and quantum mechanics, I absolutely love Gilmore's Alice in Quantum Land. It's a really fun read. Okay, that brings me to my actual dislike. There's like one thing that I was like, it's a thing that bothers me in physics. Okay, so this is mostly, I think, the fault of how we talk about weight in general, right? When we step on a scale, we say that we're weighing ourselves, which is in a sense true because the springs in the scale, or the weight mechanism in the scale, is pushing back up on us to actually quantify the force that we're pressing down on it with. But we measure weight in this sense in kilograms or in pounds, when in reality, in physics, the kilograms or pounds represent mass. Okay, and it's just really normalized to Earth's gravity 1g, and it's really kind of difficult to think about this. It starts to like make your brain go all woo. But anyway, so at one point in the book it says, Cortazar says, of my 85 kilograms, I felt a little over 3, which violates the conservation of mass. Okay, so mass cannot be created or destroyed. Okay, so he's still gonna be 85 kilograms. Okay, the thing is his force changed. Okay, so if this was reported in newtons or like pound force, okay, that would be different. So it's not his amount of matter that has changed. She's not 3 kilograms. That's not a thing. But anyway, rant done. I loved this novella. Clearly, I had very little bad to say about it, and I had to like hone in on one sentence. But anyway, I'm going to keep reviewing the Expanse books. I'm going to take, unfortunately, a little breather break because I think I should read some other things now and again. It's hard for me because I get into things and I like to stay into things. But if you'd like to continue following mine and Jordan's reviews, please remember to subscribe to iWizard and hit the notifications button for our updates. So until next time, bye.